So you still consider yourself a screenwriter, even though it's been literally years since you've written a screenplay and your last screenplay is not done and you've been tinkering around with it forever. But who has time? You have kids, you have a partner, you have a job, you have friends, your parents are sick. It's always something. It's always something going on. There's two main things that are going to help you finish your screenplay and keep up your momentum. My name is Spade Robinson. I'm a writer and filmmaker, but I'm also a story consultant. I work with nonprofit artist organizations like Sundance and Film Independent to help them choose the filmmakers that they're going to work with to support, as well as for-profit companies, Fox, Disney, HBO, to help them choose which filmmakers they're going to hire or work with as well. So I can bring that information back to you to help screenwriters become stronger screenwriters and people who want to become screenwriters become screenwriters. So there are two main things that you're going to need to do to move your script forward and move your writing practice forward. But before I'm going to go into that, but before I go into the details of those two things, you need to understand that what's standing between you and finishing your script or picking that back up as a goal, and getting out of hobby land, but moving into professional land is not the lack of time. It's not your relationships. It has to do with your communication. You need to be able to communicate to the people in your life that it's a priority. So if it's number 7 on the list right now, if it's fallen down to number 11, and you want it to be number 3 or 4 out of your main list of priorities of things on your plate, you need to be able to communicate that to the important people in your life, your partner, your parent, your teenage children, whoever it is, your boss's assistants, whoever it is, your work bestie that you get Starbucks with every morning before work. You need to dedicate those hours to writing. Then you have to communicate that clearly. That's the first step. And then the second step is committing in your mind. You have to make the commitment yourself. I'm going to follow through. I've communicated it first. I did the scary thing first. I sat my spouse down and said, I'm going to focus on screenwriting. I know I said I was going to do that before, but I'm making a commitment. This is what I need. I need you to take the kids for 3 hours every Saturday. I need for you to not give me more work to do over the weekend. I need, for whatever the thing is you need to do, you need to communicate that clearly and then make the commitment to yourself to follow through. Okay. That's the hardest part. The next part, the writing part, is easy, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. There are two main things that are holding you back from finishing that last screenplay, and it has to do with scheduling. That's the first thing. And then formatting is the second thing. When you don't have a writing schedule, it's so easy to go off and things just disintegrate. They sort of dissolve. You come in hot. But then you don't have time and other things come up. You need a schedule. You know your life better than anybody else. I'm not going to be the person that says everybody has to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. That's not feasible for everyone. People who work for Amazon have to get in the car and drive way out there to a factory or facility early in the morning. Like, everybody's life is different. Your lifestyle should not keep you, though, from your work as an artist. So knowing the pockets that you have in your life, and there are pockets, there are always pockets, particularly when you communicate your needs to the people in your life. There are pockets of time, and you need to schedule them on your calendar. Block that time off visually where you can see it, where anybody who needs to see it, add it to your husband's calendar. Add it to your sister's calendar. She's going to be watching your kids. Whatever it is, you need to block that time off, put it on your calendar. You've already committed to it. And then the second thing is restructure. There's a lot of fear around restructuring because it feels like you're starting from scratch or you're redoing what you've already done. If the script is done and you've saved it wherever it needs to be saved, it didn't die. It's still there. It's frozen in time. Now you can just take a pause and look at your structure to make sure it's sound. Because if you're circling this or that and you don't know what happens next, all of those are structural problems. You can go back and rewrite when you know exactly what is happening and that it is escalating in conflict. Okay, so I'm going to just take you real quickly through an outline so you know what your structure should be at the bare minimum. This is how it should roll out. You need to start with a status quo. You don't start with an inciting incident, something, particularly for a feature, something is just happening. For a television show, it's different. But for a feature, you have a level of passive dysfunction in your main character's life. Things are not perfect. Things are not the way they should be, but your character is surviving them. That's their status quo. You introduce them in that scene. But all you're doing right now, you're not writing scenes. You're just writing Roman numerals and what happens in each outline, okay? That's a sentence or less. So Roman numeral 1 is your status quo, your character's passive dysfunction. What kind of life are they living? How is that displayed? Before the inciting incident. The next thing is the inciting incident. What is the event that happens that switches their life around and switches their situation around? The next thing is going to be Roman numeral 3, which is the point of no return. That's the decision your character makes because the inciting incident happens. So your point of no return is a reaction to the inciting incident. And it's not just something that happens to them as a decision your character makes. That makes your character an active character as opposed to a passive character. All this development work you need to be doing alongside of your outlines makes the outline strong because it's your foundation. So in order to make sure your character is active, that beginning of Act 2 is your point of no return. It's a decision or an action your character takes. Next is your climax. That's when your character's getting what they think they want, but they haven't changed. So let's say if it's boy meets girl, then your climax is going to be when she finally... So your climax is going to be when she finally says yes to a date or something like that. Yes, I think I'm getting what I want, and I didn't even have to change for it. That's your climax. That's the feeling of it. And then after that is your trigger. So your trigger is a little wink to the fact that things are not going to go perfectly. So it's a little chink in the armor. So let's say if it's boy meets girl, and she finally agrees to go on a date and it goes well, that's your climax. And then directly after that, something happens that shows that if this character doesn't change, things are going to go to the left. So let's say if he's an alcoholic and he hid that from her, maybe she finds that out, or maybe she finds extra bottles of alcohol after he said he was sober, or something like that. So it's not a huge event. It's something that happens where the audience is like, uh-oh, I feel like something could go left. But then the story continues. Then you have your bottom of the second act, which is everybody knows is your character's lowest point. That's when your character loses everything. So right next to that Roman numeral, what happens when that character loses everything? After that is lasting change. That means your character, in order to get what they want, have to actually change, like in a fundamental way, lasting change. And then the next thing is going to be your conclusion, which is your character's reward for lasting change. So that is your structure. You're going to restructure your screenplay to fill those Roman numerals. And now you have an outline to go back to your script. I hope this helps. Happy writing.